So, welcome to the Cosmic Powerhouse and another episode of Let's Create a Healing Temple Together. And today we have the pleasure to have Precious Nyarambi in our podcast show. Hello, Precious.
Very happy to have
you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a beautiful smile in the beginning. It must be a lot of good energy here. So Precious is the founder and CEO of Vessels of Virtue, who is very much caring about empowering entrepreneurs. And she's from Africa and will tell us about the situation in Africa and how she is passionate about empowering women there and helping also to create a more healthy environment and healing environment. She's also a speaker and author in that topic. And before we dive deeper in listening to Precious about her activities, we want to open a sacred and safe space, like in the shamanic way, because we want to create a healing temple. And so that's where we start with. So if you want to join me, we fold the hands in front of the chest and we just bring it up. The head, breathing in and out, and unfolding our own soul bubble, our own energy field around us. You can imagine a golden bubble where is all your soul wisdom covered in. So, and to ground ourselves as we want to be in the present moment and bring full attention to our guest and the conversation, we do 3 times inhaling, breathing down into the earth like we are growing roots as a tree. So, breathing in and out, and in and out. And another time, deep breathe in. And out. So now as we are grounded, we would like to know from Precious about her journey. So Precious, what made you go on this path? So why are you so passionate about empowering women in your area in Africa? So is there a personal story connected? What brought you to this path?
So I would like to just start by saying thank you so much, Manuela, for the wonderful opportunity that you've awarded me. I don't take it for granted. I'm
welcome.
Grateful. Thank you. So for me, I feel like, sometimes opportunities are presented our way through adversity or challenges that in our faces. And it's how we turn that into something meaningful. It's how we make lemonade out of lemons. It's how we make a message out of a mess. It's how we make a testimony out of a test. So
I need to repeat that, a message out of a mess. I never heard that. That is so brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. So when we are confronted with challenges, this is my mantra. This is how I look at things. Of course, when initially you are challenged, you are taken aback, you are shocked when challenges are presented our way, because normally we then don't have the blind spot to see that it was coming. It's normally through a shock that you're able to identify that there's a challenge in front of me. And so I always feel like I don't have to approach it from a place of defeat. I have to confront it from a place of victory. So I then feel like okay, if there are frustrations that I'm facing, there are opportunities that are coming my way. If there are challenges that I'm facing, I then have to unpack all of this. I admit that there's a challenge in my way. I unpack it, then I weigh options of trying to solve it. So me being an entrepreneur has been from that space. Yes, there is a story around it. I grew up in Zimbabwe. I'm a Zimbabwean girl. I'm a Shona lady. And I grew up in a childhood home. I think I shared that with you a while back, where life wasn't as rosy. There was no silver platter for anything. And it's how I've had to perceive all of those obstacles, unpacking each one of them and allowing the growth stages and the growth phases to happen in my life as I overcome each hurdle upon hurdle upon hurdle. So by nature, that is what has triggered entrepreneurship in my space, because I have to unpack different things to solve different problems that I'm confronting. So that's where I started from. Like, if I don't have fees, then maybe I can sell some sandwiches to raise my school fees. I don't have pets, so maybe I can sell sandwiches to raise money for my pets. And so it has been that process where I have then had to evolve as an entrepreneur, growing step by step, becoming better and better with each challenge. So I think generally being an entrepreneur is someone who is able to then solve the challenges that a community has, and they're doing it so to be paid, or they are also community development champions. So that's really, in essence, that's where I'm coming from. As I unpacked the frustrations that I faced on my trajectory, I've been able then to become the person that I am becoming. I'm saying becoming because I'm still work in progress. I'm evolving. I'm still trying to be better and better with each stage of my life. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I feel so much power coming out of that. So there's a lot of strength in you. My goodness. So that is really wonderful to observe. So where did that come from? So what helped you to become so strong and to go through these challenges and to develop that strength? So is there anything which is connected to that? What are you practicing? So some people are practicing meditation or something to really, make everything connected. So is there some kind of recipe where you were able to develop such a lot of strength?
I don't know if you can relate, Manuela, that sometimes there's a saying that says you don't know how to be strong until being strong is the only thing that's remaining for you to do. So I can paint a scenario here where, imagine being a young lady, probably 10 years old, and you are going home to a child-headed home where there's no parent, and that child also cannot do so much for you, and you cannot also place such a huge demand on them because they are equally a child like you. They also would have needed support from their parents that are late. So it's a situation where you know that you have to be strong because that's the only thing that you have to do. And also I'm a believer. So my core value, that has been my coping mechanism. If I feel weak, if I feel disempowered, if I feel distressed, if I feel discouraged, I've always gone back to my maker, that I believe is the source of my strength, is the source of my comfort, he's my hope, he's my foundation, he's my reason, he's my sounding board. He makes sense to me. So occasionally I go there for strength. I commune with him. I tell him my fears. I tell him my wins. I tell him my discouraging moments. So if there's anything about anchoring for me, I would really say that unashamedly so, that has made sense to me over the years. I've learned to go there and convey my fears, my concerns, my frustrations, etc. And I've come out there feeling much stronger, much empowered, feeling like there's ultimately someone out there who really cares. I cannot hold them, but I feel it strong in my heart, and that has carried me through.
Yeah. So can you give us maybe some kind of vision for what you can say to others? So what is your vision from all that learning, from your own experience and personal journey? So how can we create this, use this experience you have and your approach for creating healthier environments or a healthier world? So when we obviously observe a world which is not in peace right now at many places, and so many challenges are around, especially also for women and families and kids. So do you have a vision for us, what you see, what is important?
I think, Manuela, that a broken person breaks other people. A broken society cannot contain a healthy society. So I firmly believe that healing must start with Precious. So with all the challenges that I have gone through, and I know you have also gone through yours, we have to confront those hurts, those ugly moments. We have to admit that they are there personally, individually, unpack them and find healing, find closure. So once I am healed, once I have mastered healing as Precious, then out of me can flow love. And if I've not mastered that, I cannot give it to anyone. We can't give what we don't have. We can't give from empty cups. Only when we are overflowing with goodness, when we have mastered ourselves, when we have gained mastery over the frustrations, the challenges that life presents, then we can be able to be, to bring healing to other places of our lives. So I feel that sometimes we are battling with people that are hurt, that have not mastered their own hurts, and we are expecting them to bring healing to the world, and they cannot. And when you look at the world, when we look at it now, it's wounded, it's broken. And that's a reflection of individuals who are wounded and broken. So for me, I feel like individually, we must make an effort of making sure that Precious is whole, Precious is full, Precious is healed, Precious is restored. And once I am like that, even as a leader, I can be able to function at my full capacity. I can be able to be a better person to people that are around me because I have gained mastery over myself. Therefore, I can then give out the goodness that is inside of me. So sometimes people are so empty and we are expecting them to bring healing to the world. They cannot because they've never been to those places where there's total healing for themselves. So we are asking a lot. So I feel that strongly introspection is something that at an individual level, each one of us must pursue personal growth, introspection, find healing, finding closure, becoming a better version of ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So it's of course that everything I could only agree because of my own experience. And that's where I develop my services around to help people, to support people exactly for that. Also soul healing, which is very much the shamanic way to look at the things, the wounds, and to make sure that the energy is changed, right? This is all about alchemy, alchemizing pain into purpose and pain into power. And what you've said, it's so important to look at this. So in our society, very often, we don't like so much to look at the shadows, the shadowy world, but it's so important. It's part of us. Everything is shadow and light. And so it's okay and also necessary, like you described it, to look at the shadow, to accept it, to think about how can I integrate that, because with everything there's something beautiful surrounded with, right? So, and to have healed leaders is so important to really be able to create a healed world. And I published an article which is where I put this quote in. So if you want to heal the world, you have to heal yourself first. And that is, I'm really convinced of that, because we have so many broken people for many reasons for that. We have so many conflicts in the world, little ones and big ones. And so it's really like you have in the background the word vessels. We are the vessel of our soul. And that is what we are now learning more and more again, that our body is really something precious. It's like something like a temple, right? And we should also treat it like that, to be able to be a very good home for our soul, for our spirit. So thank you so much to bring that up. So
I was also thinking that change is here, it's now, it's us taking action and wanting to see, because sometimes we are thinking the next person must change, they must become better before we become better. But change is me, change is here, change is now. Only when I change for better can the world become better.
Yeah, like Gandhi said, be the change in the world you want to see, right?
Absolutely.
So it starts with us. Absolutely, it starts with us. So yeah, empowering women as vessels of change, women's empowerment. How can that help building cornerstones for healthier environments and communities? So from your practical work, can you give us a little bit insights? So how does it look like in Zimbabwe, for example?
See, our context is a very complex and complicated one, because we have a patriarchal society. We have this whole thing that then people assume that it's feminism, so I had this interesting conversation today with this gentleman, and I was telling him that I think society must learn to live with an empowered woman, and not because it's a bad thing, but sometimes women are having to navigate a lot of terrains that are so hard, that are so difficult. Sometimes, like in our context, women are single mothers, or they are early mothers, or they were abused and then they became mothers, or the husband died, or, you know, they now have to claim maintenance in the court. And so I think I've had to interact with those women, and sometimes because women are not financially sound, then they don't have any decision-making power to effect changes in their lives. It's like your freedom is taken away from you because you are not empowered financially. So for me, through Elohe Cleaners, I've had to interact with a lot of women that are coming from different backgrounds. But the core of it is women that are broken, women that are hurt, women that are trying to pick themselves up, women that are trying to take their children to school. And every time I listen to different stories that have led them to be where they are vulnerable, where they don't know how they will send their children to school, how they will eat or take care of themselves, or even further develop themselves educationally so that they are sound. So it's that terrain where you are dealing with women that even when you just take it to the SDG goals, you can see that there are a lot of inequalities. There's a lot of GBV that's happening there. Africa still battles a lot of early marriages for young girls marrying as early as 13, 14, some being raped, you know, a number of times by men that are supposed to protect them. So then they are forced into the circumstances or environments that actually don't just grow them, and they are just unfit and they don't have a say. So for me, I looked at it personally, even from my own personal background with my parents. Some of the reasons I thought my mom probably made certain decisions in her life, which I cannot disclose. I just felt like it centered on empowerment and financial reasons. So I took it, it's something that is very dear to my heart, that I want to see if women are empowered financially, can they make better decisions for themselves, even as to who they choose to be their life partners, who they want to be with. So I feel that women, they need to be exposed to full holistic empowerment, and it's in its entirety, in terms of like mental capacitation, their health, their well-being, emotional, financial, just that holistic package. I think society becomes better because then There's even an adage that says that when you empower a woman, you've empowered a village. So it's important that women get empowered. And so it's also important that as women, we actively try and empower one another actively. So we need to be intentional about it. We need to create opportunities of employment for other women. We need to let other women see the light that we now know, especially if they are coming from places of obscurity, and we need to be intentional about it. Yeah.
Okay. Very good insight here. Thank you. So when you're talking about empowering women, is it also about startups? So creating little businesses around them and for them to make money themselves? Because we saw Muhammad Yunus was also introducing that years ago already, that he has proven that it really has so much power when you give someone, also if it's little money, but just to have a start with something and to be able to make your own business or whatever you're doing. So how do you see that in with the eyes of entrepreneurship to create new business models or new businesses around that to support their life and living?
The reality is that there is no employment, there's no formal employment, but people must survive, particularly women, because then they have to take care of their children at that basic level. So yes, women can be given money, but it's also important to upskill them so that they have a better understanding of how to manage the resources that are given to them, which is why then when entrepreneurship is introduced as a course, as a learning trade, as anything that it can be, it capacitates the women to be able to be better stewards of the resources that are bestowed to them. And again, I've heard one, I think was there's a bank, I think it's in the Pakistan, where they developed a bank for the poor. And they said, according to research, they cited that, you know, when women are given a loan, they repay better. So you can trust a woman that given an opportunity, they can be able to multiply the opportunity, and it benefits a bigger pool of people. So I think that as much as they can be given money, they must also be given the knowledge, the skill set to be able to contain the resources that are coming their way. And that can be through mentorship programs, that can be through masterclasses. I think I highlighted to you the other day that we have signed an MOU with a number of institutions that are helping us to run skills programs for women to be able to upskill themselves so that they can be able to run their endeavors successfully. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually what we already know as a world community, that education is really the key, right? So we need to give the people the information and knowledge and train them that they have the skills also to change their life and do something else, right? So how is this accessible for the women in Zimbabwe? So how easy because as a European, I think you cannot imagine that you cannot right away go to the internet. You have everything, you have the courses, and so yeah. So maybe to bring some more reality here in the podcast. So how does it look like? Is it the same, or is it really a bit more difficult to access courses and knowledge and information?
It's not the same. I've had the honor and the privilege of being in the European countries, and I count it a privilege because it's not easy to get there. And I grew up as an African. I'm a proud African for that matter. But I've seen the discrepancies, the inequalities that are there being an African, and how countries in Europe or other developed countries, women are more empowered, women are more advanced in terms of like knowledge, exposure, and things like that. So for me, it's not easy accessing education in Africa, particularly in my country or maybe the SADC region. People still have to navigate a lot of challenges to access decent and quality education at any specific level. Again, I had a conversation with someone today telling me that there isn't as much secondary schools in my country, which really baffled me because I wasn't expecting to hear that. And also we're still navigating issues where children have got to travel long distances to get to school. And sometimes they're getting to the schools on empty stomachs and things like that. So it's not just as easy. I think that's the bottom line. It's not easy. If it's not easy, it's also sometimes not the right quality, because now there's also the discrepancies of the high end and the low end, and sometimes the low end is often compromised. People are not putting as much effort. And also the issues where there's inflation and the teachers are not being paid well. And so people are just having to unpick different challenges.
Yeah, it's like a hamster
So you
wheel
can't
all
say
going on.
this. Exactly. So it's just, you say that this or that, say this or that. So we, and then back again to the SDG goals, where it's the right of every person to have decent education. So it's not yet that cast on that it's there for everyone to access it. I think there's still inequalities, and more so for the girl child. Yeah.
And the absolute need is that everyone has access to pure water, free water, to be accessible, and also healthy food, right? So because, like you say, if the teacher has no energy because not enough food and not enough healthy food, and especially the children, the kids, so which are growing and needs really the most healthiest food. So it can be developing that good, right? So if you think about three things, maybe what would it need? What would be your message to also the organizations? Because we have many organizations be in Africa for such a long time and putting in money and people, and there's so many projects working, and some can wonder, so why do we still have the situation? Why do we still have the situation? And I'm sure we make progress in this and that area, but I'm really wondering why couldn't we have a better situation for all already? So what would be the three things maybe you can recommend? What would need the most focus right now?
In my humble opinion, I would think that there's a need to do an effective needs analysis continuously. And, sometimes it's another thing to find for things that you are not fully aware, that you don't have context over. So there's need to do a continuous needs analysis. Does what's being conveyed really what's on the ground? Are this the bread and butter issues? Who is handling the issues? Can the source be trusted? That's for me would be number one. But maybe even before that, we were having a conversation with someone the other day, and we were saying that one of the things that fascinates me when I go to Europe is that the white people are going to trust me if I use a train, they are going to trust me to buy my card for the train. I know Switzerland, for instance. I'm going to buy my train card. I'm going to put money in it. I'm going to tag in when I get into the train. And it's the norm, it's culture that you must do right, and you must know that you must do right. And so it speaks to the core values, the DNA that our people have, that they are there to. And I was thinking, imagine, which I feel, I could be wrong, I stand guided. In an African context, that core fiber of those values embedded in us, even at a childhood level, being taught to be accountable, being taught to be honest, being taught to be a good custodian, that you're not going to throw litter on the floor. When you are given these resources, you are given your lunchbox, you're going to manage it, and you're going to manage it well. I feel like fundamentally, if that can be embedded in our societies as Africans, we won't have issues of grown men that are not accountable to anything. grown men that are corrupt, because at a fundamental level, certain principles are drilled in. So now we are having to do with an adult who has no value system, and we are expecting them to do what is right, to account for things. And that's impossible. And thirdly, I don't understand how human beings feel like we don't have enough for everyone. I honestly feel that if we can learn to share, we have enough. And if I can understand that I need Manuela to be on this podcast, it will help me to understand that if I have an extra plate of a meal, I don't have a problem sharing it with my neighbor, then I won't have anybody who is hungry. So I feel like internally, there's this whole value system of people who feel like they are better than the other. And there's this continuous infighting. And again, it goes back for me to the value systems of what is being taught. Can we be kinder to each other? And that has nothing to do with religion. It's a value system. It's a thread in the society that I feel like it can then help everyone. If I have enough, I can share. If you have an opportunity, you can invite me on this podcast to amplify the work that I'm doing, so we can coexist, we can share. You can only live in one house at a given time. You can only drive one car at a given time. There's no need for you to have so many things and be begging for who, when the next person, your neighbor, doesn't even have a meal. So there are dynamics I'm still trying to comprehend. I'm still trying to understand. So for me, really, it's just that issue of we can coexist, we can share, and our value systems, can we cultivate a nature where we are honest, we are accountable, we are responsible human beings, we can take good care of our environments, and collectively, imagine the impact of that. I don't see any litter in Europe. When I go there, I don't see papers on the streets. I see people utilizing their cards to pay. I see responsible citizens, and see people that are generally kind. And then before money is invested in these African initiatives, can there be a serious activity that happens of needs analysis? Does what's being conveyed really what's on the ground? Is this the urgent need of the society? You can't tell me about malaria killing me if I don't have food in my house. That will not make sense. So sometimes there's a mismatch of funding and the needs analysis.
The understanding of the needs, right?
Yes, actively. So for me, fundamentally, that's my opinion. Like I said, it's my humble suggestion. I stand guided because I feel like if then the value system is corrupt, it's not right. We are not building anything. If our foundations are shaken, we are not building anything. We must go back to the roots of just teaching each other the right things, the things that makes us human. That will be my contribution.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope it will reach so many outside with our podcast show, because that's actually also what's behind the podcast show. Let's create a healing temple, right? So to really understand there's more than the materialistic thing. So it's the non-physical, the spiritual, what you described with also the values, that we are valuing each other, that we see the soul in each other, and not only the appearance here, if poor or rich or whatever, it does not matter. It's a soul which we are facing and speaking to, and where we can feel the energy as soon as we're getting back to sensitivity, which is also unfortunately very much lost in this world. But there's a reason for it, and especially for the African continent, but everywhere. So in Europe, or where I live, right, there was so many wars. So there's so much of this energy in, and I know for many people it's still very unfamiliar, but it is all about energy, and we have really things stored here in the earth and in the field. We can feel that. I was once driving next to a battlefield, and a very old one in France, and I started to cry in the car. I got so connected that I started to cry. I could feel that energy, and maybe I had as a soul also some kind of memory. It could be. So what I want to say with that, it's really that we are looking at the more finer things and sensitivity. And when we are when we are really going that path of spiritual awakening, like we do as a society, as a global community right now, if we believe in spirituality or not, the energy is here, and our soul is getting more and more awakened, and some are very far with that, some not. And it's just from my experience that you come into this place of humbleness automatically. When you go through that process and you really go more inside, like you said some minutes ago, so go inside and look in yourself and the shadows, and deal with your challenges and do the soul work and heal the wounds and everything. It is a process which really automatically will lead you to that humble place, and you will act differently in the world for sure. So you will really very much more valuing the things, Mother Nature, what the abundance, what brings Mother Nature for us, and also your individuals, your neighbors, your family, all of them. You look at things differently because you feel more, you see more, and that is what is our aim is, of course, also here to showcase and to explain with different examples, like with yours from Africa and from Zimbabwe and from your tradition and culture, to explain and bring it closer to the people, how it feels to be really connected to yourself. And like you say, sometimes in life you have no other chance to, just to connect to yourself and pull out your strengths from yourself out, right? And that is actually also what we go through in spiritual awakening. And I met many people who, experienced that, being really like the phoenix down to the earth and then build up everything. And that is nothing we need to disconnect from, look away from, just to accept that is the nature of living as a human here on earth.
Absolutely.
So with that very, very large goal here. So what is the systemic barriers? You were talking about education and not caring enough about the needs, like simple needs like food and nutrition itself. So is there other systemic barriers you see why this is so difficult right now, or could be more supported in the other way?
Yes, there are a lot of systematic barriers that I observed. And for me, I think I'm first a humanitarian than anything else. And so sometimes, like this year, I think 3 months ago, we buried one of my best friends. She had cancer and she was sick for like 5 years. And that really affected me because she was one of my dearest people, one of my dear friends that I loved dearly. And watching her fade away like that and nothing being able to be done was, it was devastating.
Yeah,
and
very sorry for that. I can. Yeah.
Thank you. This is just one of those examples for me where I feel that sometimes there's late diagnosis of diseases, there's misdiagnosis of diseases, then sometimes there's even just wrong diagnosis altogether, and then there's no support, the right support, especially in most of the marginalized communities. So what inflation has done, it has created a society where there's no middle society. You say that you can or you can't. And therefore, a lot of people fall below that standard of they cannot. And so you see that a lot of human rights are often violated. Back again to the issue of lack of education and lack of decent, affordable healthcare. The other day I was just Googling because there's a masterclass, there's a program I'm supposed to do in Switzerland, a crash program for healthcare.
Okay.
And I just looked, I wanted to see the number of hospitals in Geneva. You know, it was fascinating for me to see that I know the population is not so huge, but the number of hospitals in the region of Geneva is just one of the cities in Switzerland. It's you know, I was just like, that makes sense, where the ratios of the hospitals, the population and the number of hospitals makes sense. And that's not so the case. Because then now when you're looking at the African context, you're looking at scenarios where sometimes people have to travel to their neighboring countries to seek decent medical attention. And that is even expensive. There are those that cannot even afford to get the right healthcare support that is needed. So it's, for me, I think at the moment that one is really burdening me. And I feel like there's a lot that can be done to be able
that
to help.
healthcare is not accessible, right? So medicine, healthcare is not accessible like we are, of course, used to in Europe. So it's long distances, which is lowering then also the quality of life, or even makes surviving difficult.
Absolutely. So even when a woman is giving birth, there's been an increase on the mortality rates. A lot of women are losing their children while it's giving birth, because not so much attention is given to per patient at a given time. And sometimes there's not so much resources. And then it's just sometimes very expensive for any person to get the right support. And then also the same with the chronic diseases, because then there's the right equipment that is affordable for everyone. So healthcare, literally, in the essence of it all, it's not quality, it's not accessible, it's not decent for a majority of people, except for those that can afford them to pay more, which is not everyone.
Yeah. So how do you bridge that? So what are the people doing right now to help themselves? So are they working with their traditional medicine, which is more the African cultural tradition, and the medicine men and women, which were existing for thousands of years, of course? So can they help them at least a bit to bridge that, to hopefully we get the situation better, of course, for regular healthcare?
There's a lot of interventions. Look, people are always, your health is your wealth. If that is affected, if that is tampered with, you have to go to extra lengths to see how you can manage it. So yes, the traditional part plays a big role. And then, Africans are highly religious people. So faith also plays a role. And then people are also, then there's a lot of medical tourism in the neighboring countries and the regional countries. Some go as far as Turkey, some go also to Europe. Some are relocating out of the country, mostly for those reasons, because health is a big issue. So I think that a lot of interventions are happening. People will be just trying to cope, people will be just trying to survive and navigate that frustration that is there. To those that can afford, they can still access decent healthcare, but sometimes it's not so for everyone, like I alluded to earlier.
And do you see a possibility that also, so as a shaman, I'm always looking at the root cause, of course, in the energy system and the chakras. So what is for, on your opinion, would be the root cause for many of this disease, sickness, illness? So of course, when you are living in a healthy environment, so it's more likely that you can really retain your health, but maybe there's also outside influence, which makes it difficult. So is there something what could be changed for Africans?
Yeah, definitely.
To have it easier to really retain their health, right?
It's just that, oftentimes healing there are a lot of things at play. So if you, for instance, if you have to deal with maybe inflation, where maybe you build your savings for a period of time, and then one day inflation comes and wipes all of that away, your life savings, then one day you wake up, you don't have anything. Then before you know it, you are now sick with high blood pressure because you just don't know how to maneuver yourself around that whole scenario. And sometimes it's also the health, the diet that people are eating. People are trying to, survive. Sometimes people are ending up eating GMOs, which are not helpful for our health. Funny enough that, organic food in some of the African countries, it's expensive. And then the GMOs are not as expensive. I feel that is an effect on people's health in the long run. So it's for me, I feel like it's just this different factors that sometimes they are not inherent, they are forced circumstances that then challenge our health. When you are stressed and you're overwhelmed and you have to do it for no money, it's a lot of things that happen there. You don't know where you are going to live. You don't know how you're going to take care of your children. And sometimes people can just have panic attacks and they collapse and they're dead. And then it's a whole lot of things. So our intervention has been, I think there are other people that are actively playing in the space, and kudos to them. I celebrate the wonderful work that they are doing. In our little efforts, we are also just trying to appeal to the people that hear us when we speak, that we are introducing our little intervention to try and play in the space and kind of like bring a bit of equality to the space. But of course, there are other people that are also trying to do the same, and I celebrate also the wonderful work that they are doing.
Wonderful, thank you. So, yeah, coming to the end now, it was so wonderful to talk to you and get all the insights. And yeah, like we said, we really want to have here real talk. We are so interested to know about the real situation in the different areas, and yeah, just to hear the different visions and ideas, how we can make this planet and the society healthier. And yeah, from my personality, I look at all beings, of course. It's not only humans, but also the animals, because it's a system and it's a big community. And so we have to also look at the ecosystems, which are very important, that we can retain our health in general. So thank you so much, Precious. And well, for the closing now, is there one call to action you want to bring out? Is there one really powerful message you want to give to our audience?
Oh, Manuela, it has been an absolute honor to have this heart-to-heart chat with you. My call to action really would be, we have introduced healthcare insurance. That's our starting point, where we are offering different policies that we feel they are affordable to an average citizen. And apart from that, they can give access to our beneficiaries, some access to equipment. So we do need support with medical equipment, because most of our clinics in the marginalized communities don't have medical equipment at all. So we are not even looking for new medical equipment. We are looking for old medical equipment, from beds. There are women that are giving birth on the floor. What is so common in getting gloves and things like that is not so common in my world. And like I said, I've had the privilege of traveling and seeing the exposure of the beauty of having all these things in place and how many lives can be saved. So to people who are listening and would love to support the work that we are doing, my call to action is, if you know someone who knows someone who can help us with any form of medical equipment that we can ship to my country, that we can capacitate the clinics that are in marginalized communities, that will definitely save a life. We will forever be grateful. Any support around medical equipment is really what we are looking for at the moment. We know that if we get that support, we can be able to really do a lot of work and impact and save many lives. Even if people feel skeptical about the money, the actual equipment itself is more than good enough for us. It can help us to really bring to life the vision that we are envisioning, that every human being has a right to decent healthcare, quality, decent healthcare. So that's really my call to action, Manuela. That's my ask. Thank you.
Thank you. So to the healthcare leaders and medtech leaders, please reach out to Precious Nyarambi. So we will deliver also link and contact details that you can reach out to her and support this, please. So talking about energy, because we feel so much energy in you and so much passion, it's so beautiful. What are you doing to retain your powerful energy? Is there some specific recipe which we want to know about?
I think that, like I said earlier, my childhood life experiences, they are making me to be the woman that I'm supposed to be. So that's my inner energy. When I feel like at some stage I didn't have food to eat, I didn't have money to go to hospital, that brings sanity to me. It brings reality to me that there are still young girls that are in that space that are not able to do that. So when I think of those children and when I think of those women that needs opportunities, it keeps me on my feet. What can be done? What can be done? And in my short little time that I have on this earth, I want to be able to just bring an impact and change someone's life.
You are such a role model. You're such a role model. That's so beautiful. Yeah, look at her. So she's a future leader. That is what we need. So we need that passionate leaders who just do, just look and just do and see always the bigger vision and go for it. So thank you so much. Yeah, so last question about your contributions, actually. So is there an idea how you would like to be remembered? Do you think about that?
You know, when I started LOA Cleaners, I started it one day when I was so stuck in South Africa, in the middle of nowhere. And I kind of like could resonate with how women sometimes end up throwing themselves at any man, or when they're looking for this and they end up settling. And that's how I started the cleaning company. And that has employed a lot of women in South Africa, and we're trying to grow that. And sometimes when I have conversations with some of the women, it just brings me so much joy, so much contentment that a life was saved, hope was given, hope was restored. They were the little nudge that we gave them spiraled, and they grew, they blossomed. That I feel like when a life is transformed positively like that, that's just how I want to be remembered. Look, I do make mistakes. I have oversights, plenty of them. I think on a leadership level now, I now know. But generally, I think that's how I want to be remembered, that Precious gave me this little job, gave me this opportunity, believed in me, and life changed for good, for the better. That's how I want to be remembered. Thank you, Manuela.
Wonderful. Thank you. I can so feel that. Tears in my eyes. It's going very much to the heart. So, yeah. So thank you so much for being here in our podcast show and sharing all that valuable insights again. And yeah, so for all who want to support the initiatives from Precious Nyarambi, please reach out to her. You will see the contact details then. And yeah, I'm wishing you all the best for you, for your activities, and for the women in Africa. I can nearly start crying. So I will now close the Cosmic Powerhouse energetically, taking my field back. So that is just the procedure. And I thank you who is watching or listening to our podcast show. Hope very much you had a lot of insights taking with you and a lot of good inspiration and energy from us. And so please follow up the podcast show. Let's create a healing temple together. And you all are contributing to that with your being, just by being you and coming back to your soul, your purpose, and your vision and mission. So please go ahead. Thank you.